All right, good morning, everybody. All right, we're going to start with the monuments prompt and looking at a sample outline for how to complete a synthesis essay. So the monuments source packet I've relinked right here in this PDF for you. So if you look at the second paragraph, if you remember, this was a longer prompt because it had quite a bit of things in it, but it said write an essay that synthesizes material from at least 3 of the sources and develops your position on the factors a group or agency should consider in memorializing an event or person and in creating a monument. So in the deconstruction, remember, we turned that into 2 different questions to answer as your response or thesis to the prompt. So if we were going to sit here and write this essay, here's what the sample would look like. And it's going to prompt you to make a copy. That way you always have an example in your drive. And as you're making copies of documents, I really hope that you are saving these documents in one folder, one AP dual credit folder. That way you're not having to search them every single time. It's just a really nice habit to start doing if you haven't already. You should have folders for each of your classes so you can save documents, especially throughout virtual learning. Okay, so it says a basic outline, and I know there's a lot of writing, but it really is. And there's just a lot of just some hacks and tips that are embedded within this outline that you want to pay attention to. So ultimately, when you're reading through the synthesis prompt and the sources, just making quick annotations is not enough. You have to create some sort of basic outline in how you're going to organize it before you start writing it. And that's true for any of these essays. So for you guys, that prompt is given to you here again for the monuments. So down here, if you look at the intro, you need to include a specific thesis that answers the prompt. Okay, remember, if I did those 2 questions while I was deconstructing it, then an appropriate thesis statement for that might be a monument, through careful consideration of its location, size, material, and purpose, can effectively pay homage to deep sacrifice or honor moments of great achievement. And the only thing I would, again, because this is a basic outline, once I sit down to write the essay, it's not just monuments, it's also memorials, right? So I might say a monument, monuments and memorials, comma, through careful, whatever. That way I'm making sure I'm answering both questions, but ultimately it's still defensible because I've included the factors: location, size, material, and purpose. And I would have to be able to reference all 4 of those factors in my body paragraphs. So number 1, I am going to kind of sketch out whatever my first factor / claim would be. And obviously I want to talk about location, and location can elevate or detract from meaning of a monument or a memorial. And how do I know that? Source B, Christopher Columbus's statue in the park elevates meaning, especially because of where it's located. And then the Holocaust Museum on the Mall in Washington, D.C. distracts or detracts from meaning. So I could juxtapose that there. And that could be sophistication of thought because I'm addressing limitations of and complexities of the argument. So my second body paragraph, I want to talk about my second factor, which would be size and material. I want to be able to put those 2 things together. So they must work in conjunction with the surroundings, which I just talked about in terms of location, as well as contribute appropriately to desired sense of remembrance and to effect on those paying homage to the event or person. Again, I could talk a little bit about source E with the Holocaust Museum. It's too large and it would have overpowered the mall. But at the same time, in source G, the mirrored black granite material of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial aids those in the physical world to reflect upon those in the next. And again, look at how I'm bringing in my sources. And so, yes, I use source E in the previous paragraph, but I am still bringing in an additional source to further my argument. And then because I also have one more factor, which was purpose, I need one more claim and one more little batch of sources that I can use to prove that. So the design must reflect the message that fittingly commemorates particular events and people. So I started with location and I talked about complexities there. Then I talked about size and material together and how those work in conjunction. And then the same thing, how those factors need to be guided by purpose. And so everything is carefully selected, and even my sources work together. There's a running conversation between each of the sources that I'm pairing, and then within the argument as a whole. So source G, again, going back to the Vietnam Veteran Memorial, it says the MIA or KIA names commemorates each one as an individual, paying each person homage while also working as a whole that memorializes loss. And again, I'm not summarizing that source. I'm pulling out the information I need and manipulating it to fit the argument or narrative I'm trying to convey. And then, of course, in source C, it commemorates not only Crazy Horse himself, but his accomplishments and love for the Black Hills out over which he points. And so that's careful consideration of purpose, size, materials, and location. And then, of course, I would have some sort of conclusion. And so just some notes, okay? I did use source E and G more than once, okay? But it was the second use of that same source. So I would still have the 3 different sources required by both the prompt and rubric. And then ultimately, just understand that I felt, or actually this was a student assessment, but that student felt that 3 claims was appropriate in the way that they organized the argument. But I mean, I still could use 2 factors because the word multiple implies plural, which is more than one. But ultimately, in the synthesis of all of this, you'll notice how it was carefully crafted. Each of the sources were selected with intention, and the argument builds. And this is focused on one particular argument and not a summarization of each of the sources. So this is just very brief, okay? I just really looked at a thesis, each of the factors, with brief kind of mentions on what those claims or factors might be. And then ultimately, I didn't even extract, well, the student at this point did, but in putting this outline, solid text evidence was not extracted. So that's not what I'm going to be asking you to do in this outline. I'm going to be asking you to just give me what you need to fit your argument. So whatever commentary you want to pull that helps justify and prove these factors, which ultimately prove your thesis, that's what you're looking at. Okay, so long story short, I don't need direct evidence in the basic outline. Okay, so after looking through that, you might need to read through it one more time, but you're going to go through this discussion board and you have a couple of questions that I'd like for you to answer today. Number 1, which part of the synthesis essay outline do you think is going to be the most time consuming for you? And then knowing that, what is one step you need to consider in order to be proactive, knowing that that area is going to take some more time to complete? So what solutions can you think of now to help you anticipate that time in order to be able to create that brief outline for this essay? So again, what's going to take the most time? And let's start being proactive and anticipating that so we can start brainstorming some solutions. And this is going to be a really great running discussion board because you might see some other things that might be obstacles for you and look at your peers and how they plan to address similar things. So even if you don't want to reply to each other, I would still complete this, especially for attendance, but also this is a wonderful resource as you're planning to sit and write your synthesis essay eventually once we get there. Okay? All right, that's all we're doing for today. And then tomorrow we are going to take this to a body paragraph. Actually, I'm sorry. Tomorrow we're going to do our own outline on the technology prompt, and then Friday we'll take it to a body paragraph. All right. Have a great Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you soon.